Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. People are really searching for answers. People today, a lot of them are trying to do it their way. And we see the results of people just trying to do it any old way. Any old way is like this: oh, well, I have my truth, and my truth is just fine, and your truth that you have, why, that's okay for you, but my truth is my truth. And so if it's okay for me, why, it's okay. So what do we get? People with guns, you go into schools, boom, 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 boom. Well, see, it's okay because it's me. Boom, I shot my dad. Well, that's okay. That's my truth. People, I don't like what you're doing. Well, here, I'm gonna throw these bombs out, and boom. Oh, I wounded a bunch of people. I killed them. Oh, isn't that great? Well, I did my thing. See, isn't that wonderful? Oh, well, somebody shot this unarmed guy. Oh, someone shot this policeman. Boy, riots, chaos, demonstrations. I mean, it's a crazy world out there. Well, my truth is my truth, and well, I think I'm a boy born in a girl's body, or I'm a girl that's born in the boy's body, so I just go to whatever restroom I want. Because my truth is my truth, and your truth is your truth, but you better not tell me or go against my truth. And we see the results of that, how much chaos there is as people are just doing their own thing. But I see it this way, that people are seeking something, that there's an emptiness inside. Something's drastically wrong, but what an opportunity to speak up for Christ in times like this. What an opportunity to say that it's time for battle lines to be drawn and to say, here's whom I believe. I believe that there is a God. And here's the reason for my hope that comes in the person of Jesus. And here in this book called the Bible is what was recorded about Jesus, a real person who came from God. People are searching for answers that only Christ can give. I'm amazed. People are open. It's amazing at UPike, University of Pikeville, where they have conversations all the time or lectures or debates. Oh, well, here's a Christian fella and here's an atheist fella, and you can come and you can listen to them both. And I mean, it's amazing, different things like that at the University of Pikeville, where people can come and listen and be engaged and seek for real answers. It's a great time to be sharing a hope that only Christ can give. And I'm so glad that you're here today to hear about that hope. Because when we start living for the Lord, those who are Christians, or those who start seeking the Lord, you can be sure that there's going to be things happen. There'll be people who will turn away, that there will be defection, and that there will be personal struggles as we try to work through things when it comes to faith. And so what I'm going to be sharing in this series, I'm going through the book of Acts, I'm going to be sharing about dealing with issues in life with what the Bible has to say, that I believe is the teachings of Jesus and those who are his followers, God's inspired word. So that's where we're heading, and today we're looking at disappointing defection in life and personal struggles in life. In the Bible, in the first century, there was a church of Christians in Jerusalem, and persecution came and Christians were scattered. And there was one fellow who became a Christian who was persecuting Christians, and his name was Paul. It became Paul. And he was worshiping away from Jerusalem in a town called Antioch. And from Antioch, he and his buddy Barnabas said, we need to take Jesus to other people. And so they left Antioch, Paul and Barnabas, two Christian people, and Barnabas took his cousin or nephew named John Mark. So they went to the island of Crete, and there they preached, and people came to Christ, although some doubted. And then they went on from Crete, that they went on to the mainland. And here's what happened in Acts chapter 13, verse 13. Sometimes Christians will disappoint us. From Paphos, Paul and his companions sailed to Perga in Pamphylia, where John, that's John Mark, Barnabas' cousin, left them to return to Pergamum, to Jerusalem. And that had to be disappointing. Somebody that was with us left us. Then it came on. Paul went on his missionary journey with Barnabas, and years went by. They went back to their home base, in Antioch. And then it got time, hey, let's go out again. And so here's what happened in Acts chapter 15. Sometime later, Paul said to Barnabas, let's go back and visit the believers in all the towns where we preached the word of the Lord and see how they are doing. Well, let's go at it again. So Barnabas said, oh, I want to take John, also called Mark, with him. He's my cousin. Let's take him. But Paul did not think it wise to take him because he had deserted him in Pamphylia and had not continued with them in the work. They had such a sharp disagreement that they parted company. Barnabas took Mark and sailed for Cyprus. That was where Barnabas was from, originally. So it's something. Here was a disappointment, in Paul's life. Paul was really task-driven. Barnabas was more relational, with people, so he wanted to give his cousins another chance. But that was disappointing, really disappointing to Paul. They parted company. In life, what we will find is there will be those who disappoint us. There will be those who part company with us. And that's very hurting, very hurtful. It was a difficult journey, for John Mark. Perhaps that's why he bailed out. They went from the island there to the mainland, and they had to take a rugged journey, up some mountains, and it was more remote, and it was a windy path, and there were robbers along the way. And so it could be that John Mark was afraid. Hey, I don't want to go through this territory. I don't want to get waylaid or beat up. Or perhaps John Mark got homesick. Hey, this is a long way from home. I've been away for a while. I want to go home. Or perhaps he resented it. Here were people who were coming to Christ who weren't Jewish people, and perhaps John Mark resented that. Look at these people who are coming to Christ. Why, I want my own kind, Jewish people, to come to Christ. I'm going to go back home. We don't know. The Bible doesn't say exactly why John Mark left, but he did leave. Some people will bail out in life. They may not share our enthusiasm. They may not share the vision that you have for your life or God's vision. Some may think, well, I thought that you would give me special favors and special privileges, but you're just treating me like everybody else, and that's not good enough. I want to be special. I want to be favored. So if you don't do things for me, I'm getting out of here. Perhaps some were just going through the motions, people, and they don't want to grow, and you want to grow. And you're getting closer to Christ, and the loved one is getting further from Christ, and you're drifting apart. In life, there will be disappointments. There will be defections. Some are not by choice. And by that, what I mean is that some people will die. And some of you have lost loved ones, the past several years. Oh my, here it is. My life is empty now. It's something now that I've lost a loved one, and I'm by myself, and I feel so alone. But then it's the time to move on and say, no, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going in life. For others, you've lost loved ones, but it's not been beyond your control. It's been by choice. Perhaps some of you said, I do, or had someone say, I take you for the rest of my life. And then you can feel the distance. And then somebody says, I don't love you anymore. I don't want you anymore. I'm departing from this. And that can leave a person so devastated. Some of you are teens in here, and you've had parents go through that. And that has to be so hurtful. It really does. Mommy and Daddy couldn't get along. I wonder if there's something wrong with me. Or perhaps some of you in college, you've had a roommate,
And then the roommate, you thought you knew the person pretty well, and then the roommate, no, I'm getting out of here, I'm getting out of here. And you wonder, was there something wrong with me? Why? You're ruining your future. You're bailing out. And that can be so hurtful and harmful. Or those of you in your 20s or 30s, hey, you've got friends and all, and the friends are into drugs or this or that or some of the partying, and you're saying, hey, no, I'm beyond that. That's really not what the answer is. And a friend may say, well, that's the way you are, you're no longer a friend. Defection can be so disappointing and hurtful. We want to trust people, or we respect people, but we don't need to trust them above Christ. Yes, love people, put confidence in people to a certain extent, but not worship them, because people will let us down. People will let us down. Some people will deceive us. Barnabas did see something in his relative, even though his relative let him down. Barnabas still would maintain a relationship and try to restore that person to Christian work. And he did. When things happen in life, I'm reminded so much about the song that we sang, Whom Shall I Fear? Whom Shall I Fear? They're beautiful words, to that song. You hear me when I call. You are my morning song. Oh, the Lord, someone's deserted me. Though darkness fills the night, it cannot hide the light. Whom shall I fear? Whom shall I fear? I know who goes before me. I know who stands behind. The God of angel armies is always by my side. That's the thing to remember, and that's the person to look to when there's defection in your life. Yeah, I've been rejected. Somebody has abandoned me. But the one who reigns forever, he's a friend of mine. The God of angel armies is always by my side. I'm not alone. I'm not alone. And so that's the way to handle desertion. Yeah, when you are deserted, that we remember, no, God did not reject me. Yes, there's an emptiness in my heart, but there's someone who can fill that emptiness, and his name is Jesus, and he's by my side. The second thing that we have in life, how to do life God's way, the possibility of personal struggle. Paul had left Cyprus and Crete, and perhaps he became, and we know this, that Paul, even though he was a strong Christian, he had personal struggles. In Galatians, in the book of Galatians, chapter 4, verse 13, we read this, As you know, it was because of an illness that I first preached the gospel to you. One of the things that could have been happened, this illness that Paul had, it might have been malaria, that he got malaria in the lowlands, and that could be why John Mark got scared. Oh no, look at how sick Paul got. I don't want to get mosquito bit. I don't want to get infected. This is scary. I don't know what's going on. But the Barnabas, and Timothy, and Barnabas and John Mark, would have known at least, hey, something's wrong, and John Mark could have been afraid and took off because afraid of sickness. But Paul got some type of illness, and so it could be, that then, hey, I'm going in further land to Galatia where, there aren't the mosquitoes and the swamps and the infections. And that's where Paul went that way to preach the gospel. Hey, I'm sick, I've got personal struggles. That's the thing that we note. And that even Paul, being a follower of Christ, had his personal struggles. Paul perhaps had migraines and headaches and effects that haunted him. Perhaps that's his thorn in the flesh. Being a Christian who's following Christ does not exempt you from personal struggle. Paul was doing what God wanted him to do, and yet he became sick. Some people become resentful when they think, oh, well, I thought everything was going to be perfect. I thought I wouldn't get sick anymore. I thought everything was going to be rosy. And then something happens, and oh no, I'm resentful toward God. What did I do wrong? Is God punishing me? Being a Christian does not exempt us from suffering. In fact, Sometimes being a Christian intensifies suffering. So what do? Oh, I'm going to complain. I'm going to become bitter. I'm going to criticize others. When you do, your testimony is ruined. When we're living for Christ, we're in a battle. We're in a battle. And when we're in a battle, what happens? People are going to get wounded. What do we say? Hey, so-and-so is going to the Middle East. They're in service. They're going into the Middle East. Let's pray for them. Let's pray for protection, because people get wounded when they're in battle in the Middle East. And the same thing, that we are in a battle, a real spiritual warfare battle, and that we will be wounded when we're out there doing battle. So there will be personal struggles in our life. People want to see how we observe under fire. They want to know if our faith can sustain us. And if we maintain a positive spirit and a joyful attitude, a determined faith, then our witness is greatly enhanced. There was a teenager by the name of Johnny Erickson. She was swimming, dived into shallow water, and it was shallow. Her head hit first. It ended up paralyzing her. And she went on to become a Christian. She has a radio program and all, and written a number of books. All she can do is move her head, and does a remarkable thing. She can talk, survived breast cancer. She wrote a book about that, her paralysis. The book is When God Weeps. And she said this: after my paralysis, tempting choices were scaled down considerably. She said when she was able to get around, when she was mobile, that her hands reached for a lot of things, and her feet took her to a lot of places where bad things were going on. And she says, you know what? This struggle that I have, I was doing all kinds of things that were wrong in God's eyes, with my hands and with my feet, going places and doing things, perhaps, drinking things. And she says, when that happened, when I lost my hands and feet, my mobility, then I realized I'd been going places and doing things that were wrong. And she says, I've really come to see how God helped me through this. Because no telling where I would have been if I still had my hands and my feet, going places and doing things that I used to do. God uses suffering to purge sin from our lives and strengthen our commitment to Him, and to force us to depend upon His grace. That's what's so amazing in life. God doesn't simply want us to feel good. He wants us to be good. And He will use personal struggles in our lives to toughen us up, to be people who reflect His goodness. So what do we need to do? We need to endure hardship. Endure hardship, because some Christian soldiers will disappoint you. Some will disappoint you, and that there's the possibility of Christian struggle, personal struggle. With personal struggle, endure hardship. We read this in Hebrews 12:7. Endure hardship as discipline. God's treating you as His children, for what children are not disciplined by their father? Hebrews 12:11 and 13. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. Therefore, strengthen your feeble arms and weak knees. Make level paths for your feet, so that the lame may not be disabled, but rather be healed. So in life, we'll have personal struggles. Yeah, it's been amazing, in the past month, a little over a month, that two of us from the congregation have had notices that a loved one died. A little more than a month ago, Cheryl Compton was here, and at the end of service, she got notice, your mother's died. And then 3 weeks ago, when I was here, September 11th, as service was dismissed, hey, your father died, your father died. Oh, and you know what? There's no place I would rather be than to be with my church family, my brothers and sisters, you as my church family, when there's news that is very, very discouraging and very, very stressful. I mean, that's wonderful like that. So I'm always thankful for the church family and your support through personal struggle. On Saturday, I was thinking about that as I went about up and down the road here. And I thought, well, there's Betty Tibbs, who died, and she's at the Call Funeral Home. And I don't know, any of the family or anything, but I know she's going to be there for a couple hours, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to stop by and see who's there. Well, I stopped by there and thinking, I had struggles when my relative died, my father, and certainly they must be too with the loss of their mother. So I went into the funeral home, and there were 8 people who were there, 8 relatives. Betty Tibbs lived in this area. She was the second wife of Estill Tibbs. Peanut, they called him, with the Tibbs home in Coal Run. She'd lived here and all, and her husband died 11 years ago. And then she moved out of the area to Michigan and then to Lexington, and she died in Lexington, so they brought her here, her ashes, had her at the funeral home. But I remembered her so well, so I went there. There were 8 people who were relatives there, and really, when I was there was no one. I mean, no one else, from the community that she'd, been gone, fairly long and didn't have children here. And they were so glad to see me, and I told them who I was and how I remembered Betty and everything. They said, "Well, you're a preacher, and no one's here. Nobody came." Not while I was there, before when I was there, maybe after, somebody did. But they said, "Hey, would you do something, for our mother? Would you have like a service here and all?" And I thought, wow, was that touching? Was that touching? God used my personal struggle to make me sensitive, to go there, to really fill a beautiful need, in their life at the time. You're a preacher. Well, would you pray? Would you have a little service together? And so we did, just the 8 of us and I, and together, a few words and to pray together. And they were so thankful. They were so thankful, for that in their struggle. In your life, you will have struggle and there will be disappointing defection. But the thing is, for us to be sensitive in times like that God wants to sense in our heart and then to use us to reach out to other people. And that's what He'll do in your life and in my life. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. That's the hope of the world. To battle through and to use those things to reach out to others. There will be disappointing defection. There will be personal struggles. But we press on. Jesus taught us, Mark 16:15 and 16, He said, "Go into all the world, preach the gospel to all creation. Whoever believes and is baptized will be saved. Whoever does not believe will be condemned." It's a beautiful thing to live for the Lord. And this world that's in chaos, people really do need that message of hope. And they need to come to a place where they can be accepted as they are, but pointed to Jesus, who saves people and cleans them up for a life of righteousness that's befitting His name. Do you want to give your life to Christ? Will you come as we stand and as we sing?